What is up, everyone? Alex here with another champion skin tier list. This time we'll be covering Lulu. Lulu is many things: a Yordle, a support, an enchanter, an absolute menace, and most importantly, a war criminal. Okay, maybe that last one's not true, but I felt like I needed one more. So we're here to talk about Lulu skins. We'll be ranking them and placing them in a tier list as is tradition. You could always technically skip to the end, but you'd miss out on my charm and wit, not to mention the actual reasons for where I rank things. Speaking of, I really think it's important to mention how I rank things. I use a basic tier list, but I do have two rules to it. First of all, there will only ever be one S tier pick, and it'll just be my own personal favorite. A tier are champions' best skins. I do this because on occasion, my favorite skin won't be one of the best, which always just baffles the people who didn't listen. And the second rule applies now because we're going to rank her base skin in D tier, which is where the base skin always goes for every champion, at least as of a few videos ago. Anyway, let's get moving through these skins. So the first few entries we're going to be moving through pretty quickly, just because that's how this works with some of the older champions. Wicked is one of Lulu's release skins, and a pricier one at 975 RP. I do like the color scheme for this one. I think it's really good. Black and red are great colors to use together. It's really hard to mess that up. Pix looks like a Hell Butterfly from Bleach. The spell effects have been touched up just a bit, just to match the skin a little more. I also think the splash art of the skin is really top notch. It looks really good. Very solid first entry. I think we're going to set this one in C tier. It's solid, but to get into B tier, you really have to bring some solid effects, or new recall, new emote, something. And you really got to bring your best to get into A tier. See, I explain the tiers as I go through them. I spend a great amount of time on each skin, and I give really solid, tangible reasons that are perfectly sound and objective. Next skin we're going to talk about is... Make it go away. It's going in F tier. Make it stop, please. Thank you. Dragon Trainer Lulu is next up and has a few good things going for it. The first of which is the fact that it's clearly a reference to How to Train Your Dragon. Honestly, my favorite DreamWorks series, and it hurt me to not say that about Kung Fu Panda. And that's not even mentioning the ogre in the room. Big differences are in that Pix is now a dragon, a derpy looking guy, which gives the skin some bonus points for sure, and her polymorph changing her target into dragon hatchlings. It doesn't do anything else, and a price point of 1350 RP is a bit steep for it, but still pretty good overall. It's going to get B tier. A new recall probably would have bumped it up to the A tier though. We have the obligatory ice-based skin with Winter Wonder Lulu. It's a legacy skin, which means you can't buy it, but I feel pretty confident saying that it will be available around Christmas time. Funnily enough, doing research for this video, the skin is actually based off of some fan art and then eventually resulted in this skin. Fan art on the screen as well as credit for the original artist. Very unlikely they ever see this though, considering it was made over 10 years ago. Anyway, Christmas related skins. Most champions are going to get at least one of these. They usually have some frosty spell effects to go along with them, and this skin was lucky that it came out in a post-Poro League of Legends era, because Pix is now a Poro. And her recall also involves a rather giant Poro. Or maybe it's regular size, it's hard to tell with Lulu being as small as she is. Her Whimsy also polymorphs her target into snowmen. Those are definitely the bigger effects we'll look at for the rest of the video. Polymorph and Pix especially. For a 1350 RP cost Christmas base skin, this one isn't bad. It does a solid amount to change the skin, and the colors and effects are really cool. No pun intended, I just realized that is how I wrote it in the script. How about that? I think this is going to get a spot in our B tier. We're going to go from winter to summer with her pool party skin. Another 1350 RP cost one, but this time she's a water type instead of an ice type. Well, to put it in Pokemon terms anyway. We'll take a look more at that later. We get a lot of water and bubble-based effects, and her shield-based abilities get a seashell motif to them. She now polymorphs people into baby seals. Just don't use the skin with a Trundle on your team. He does not need more clubbing seals allegations brought onto him. Now, usually, when I'm doing these videos, I typically don't mention chromas too often with these skins, just because it's a very subjective thing. But with this one, it has a nice little Finding Nemo reference with the citrine chroma turning Pix into Dory and her hat becoming Nemo. Speaking of her hat, her recall has her completely hiding underneath it, and it's pretty cute, actually. The skin seems like a pretty solid reference to Squid Girl from Splatoon. which I've never played personally, but I have played Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I've also heard a lot of good things. I never thought I'd see a team-based shooter from Nintendo, but we live in an era where that is a thing. Anyway, I'm getting distracted and off topic. I think this one is also going to hit our B tier. I'm still waiting for the first skin to really show off some serious quality and get us over the hump into A tier. Now, we might actually get it here if I'm being honest. The Star Guardian skins are often among a champion's best skins, and despite the fact that I think Lulu looks a little bit like a bobblehead with this skin, it's actually pretty good. My favorite thing about the Star Guardian skins is that they get these little familiars following them, and the fact that Lulu had picks anyway, this worked out perfectly. Her spell effects have all been changed up to have stars, and what I'm going to refer to as glitter changes made to them. Her polymorph is a little weird in that she turns enemies into little slimes with wings, kind of a classic JRPG enemy. She does in fact get a new recall, which should be pretty standard for a 1350 RP cost skin. I think the skin is pretty good. I can't get over the fact that they took her giant witch's hat away. I do miss it. And I think it makes her model look weird proportionally. It just makes her head just look ginormous. Like I mentioned, she kind of looks like a... But overall, this skin is pretty good. And honestly, I'm just kind of being nitpicky at this point. It's a weird thing to hold against it. We're going to set this in A tier, although if I am being 100% honest, I'm still kind of waiting for the quality of the skins to jump up a little bit. Okay, so when I'm making these tier lists, I try to go in chronological order. This one technically wasn't the next skin released, but Pajama Party Lulu is so similar to Star Guardian that I figured I'd just knock it out of the way here as well, considering a lot of it is going to be similar to what we just saw. The effects are basically the same, the general vibe's the same, the home guard animation, it's all the same. The skin is basically just a variant of the normal Star Guardian skin. In fact, the wiki has it listed as a variant of the skin and vice versa as well. I think we're just gonna not overcomplicate this. We're gonna put this one in A tier as well, and we're gonna keep moving forward. You know, for a champion with one of the most iconic League of Legends lines of all time with, yup, that tasted purple, Lulu gets a lot of skins that use a lot of blue. This one in particular uses a lot of blue, white, and gold. It actually looks like what I'd expect from very late game mage-related armor in any run-of-the-mill RPG. The big things to notice here are now that Pix is a smaller version of Aurelion Sol, canonically named Aurelion Small, and that's both incredible and really adorable. Like, come on. Aurelion Small? Incredible. In fact, her recall has her creating a whole-ass constellation for the little guy. Her spell effects have this very distinct comet-like effect on them that just looks very different than anything we've seen so far, and considering one of them is a speed buff, this feels pretty fitting. Other spell effects are appropriately glittery and starry, yet still different from the Star Guardian skin, weirdly enough, and her polymorph turns people into little alien squids. Overall, a really good skin, also gonna go into A tier. So I've always really liked the Space Group skins. They have this fun Futurama vibe to them. I think Riot was like, well, we can't do another space line of skins because we have way too many of those, but Disco by itself just seems a little boring. So they then decided to mash the two ideas together, and that's how we got the Space Group skins. I have no proof of that, but I also think this is 100% how that went down. The spell effects for these skins always look like they're made of melted down gummy bears, and I have no idea why, but ever since that thought crossed my mind, I can never unsee it when it comes to these skins, and now hopefully you can't either. They also use a bunch of disco light looking effects as well. We see this doubly on her recall that uses an actual disco ball and has her do a little dance. Her polymorph now turns enemies into, well, it's either a bunny or a cat, but considering her shield effects now feature cats, and Pix is now a little space cat in a UFO, I have to safely assume that it's a cat. I think the skin is a shoe-in for A tier as well. This tends to happen once you hit a certain point with a champion, where Riot released a skin one day, and then from that point forward, they just did not miss after that. The skin costs 1350 RP, by the way, which is important to know because now we also have the Prestige version of this skin. Prestige versions are usually available for Mythic Essence or by exchanging tokens for whatever Battle Pass thing is going on at the time of release. They're very similar to the normal version of the skin, but with a more gold and white color scheme to them, and golden effects on all their abilities. I actually like the appearance of this skin a little more. She leans more into the spacey Guardians of the Galaxy kind of vibe more than the normal one, and she doesn't have the silly little tentacle coming out of her head that's supposed to replace her witch's hat. Her spells use more pink and orange effects rather than the purple and orange, and it looks really good. Overall, the skin looks fantastic. It is pretty hard to get, especially nowadays. You'd probably just have to get lucky for it to show back up in the shop. Still though, for pure quality alone, it's going to hit the A tier as well. So sometimes you'll see skins grouped together. There are big groups like the team-based skins that come out to celebrate whatever team won Worlds. Weirdly enough, Lulu doesn't have any of those. You have smaller groups like with this Monster Tamer Lulu skin. It's paired up with Zapma, which we took a look at last week, funnily enough. I did do these videos back to back because Lulu and Kog'maw typically go together. These two skins are a reference to things like Pokemon and Monster Hunter, and although I would have thrown in Pow World in there as well, this skin actually came out before that was even remotely a thing. You guys remember Pow World, that thing that was going to supposedly kill Pokemon, and it was the only thing people wanted to talk about for about 7 days, maybe? And then we never talked about it again? Yeah, me neither. I don't remember it either. Anyway, the skin. Lulu is obviously the Pokemon trainer between the two of these. She carries around a cattle prod, which would normally make me very angry, but since she seems to exclusively train electric type, I guess it's okay. I don't know. Moral gray area, I think. Her spell effects are electricity based, and her shielding abilities have this mechanical motherboard look to them that's pretty different than everything else we've seen from her. Hicks is now a little lightning gremlin that I like to think is the pre-evolved form of whatever Kog'Maw is, and her recall has Pix biting the tail of, I think, Kog'Maw, who's hiding in some bushes, before we port back to base. I like the skin a lot. It's pretty different from the whimsical and magical vibe that we've been used to so far from her skins. Between that and the quality we see from it, and the fact that I'm a huge Pokemon shill, I think this is going to be our S tier pick, which, exhaustingly enough, I feel like I need to reiterate at this point, because someone is always going to ignore what S tier means just because they can't listen. S tier is just my personal favorite. A and S tier are basically a champion's best skins. Alright, so Lulu's newest skin is the Cafe Cutie skin, obviously based off of Maid Cafes from Japan. It costs 1350 RP, and I honestly think this one is the most detailed out of all of her skins when it comes to the model itself. Pix becomes a rather angry-looking winged cat. Her effects have a tea aesthetic to them with bubbly noises and this golden brown color to them. Her ultimate has a flower design to them as well, and then we also have a recall where she sets a table with 3 cupcakes. Listen, this skin is pretty good. I just don't have too much to say about it, which is really anticlimactic for the last entry. I fully expected this one to get the S tier just because of recency bias and the fact that I don't play Lulu that much. But funnily enough, I actually liked another one more. Who would have thought? This one, however, we are going to put in A tier as well. Alright, so we've gone through, we've ranked all the skins, now it's time to put them in order. This really only applies to B and A tier. In F tier, we have, this skin is called Bittersweet, by the way. It's terrifying. It scares me so much, but honestly, it's mostly because of the splash art it goes down here. Base skin in D tier, that's fine. Wicked, although aesthetically I like the general look of the skin, it just doesn't do anything, so I gotta keep it in C tier. B tier, the best one by far is Dragon Trainer. I just wish it had done more. It's just a little bit disappointing. But overall, best B tier skin. Winter Wonder being next, works. Pool Party as the last one, works. Despite the Splatoon references, I just think wintertime is better than summertime. Come at me in the comments, I do not care. As far as A tier goes, I do believe her best A tier skin is probably Cosmic Enchantress. And then Cafe Cuties. Actually, Cafe Cutie might be better. It's such a well done skin. You could probably switch these two around. Prestige is next. Pajama Party and Star Guardian, you can rank together. I think it's kind of just by preference which one you like more. I think Pajama Party is a little bit better. She looks less like a bobblehead. And then Space Groove being last. We can live with that. And then Monster Tamer. It's funny that she has Dragon Trainer and Monster Tamer. That's really funny. Being our S tier pick. Again, it's just my personal favorite. I basically view everything in A tier and S tier as like a champion's best skins. So there we have it. So that's the Lulu tier list, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and I will see you all in the next one.